big scandal in the Ministry of Defense of Russia because Shoigu was caught with a humongous lie, which he said directly to Putin. And in case Putin finally realizes that what he was told is simply not true, Shoigu might have very big problems. Besides that, the Russian Air Force recently suffered a massive defeat. This is just absolutely unbelievable how Ukrainians were able to achieve this. And reportedly, Putin has a new secret lover. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian. Whoa. Oh yeah. Propaganda. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. The reason I was speaking like this today because we're gonna talk about some romantic topics. Specifically that Putin allegedly has a new lover and her name is Ekaterina Mizulina, which you can see right now on your screen. And basically the responsibility of this woman, who is by the way a 39-year-old woman, pretty young for Putin if you ask me, but basically her responsibility is to shut down every single critic of Putin on the internet and make internet look like for Putin like a rainbow, nice, civil place when there are no trolls, no haters, and everyone loves Putin. Well, this is her responsibility, so no wonder Putin looks like he's in love with her. And, believe it or not, some very entrepreneurial Russians, they realize how to extract profit even from this situation. They decided to make hugging pillows with Ekaterina Mizulina, which you can see right now on your screen. So, my question to you guys is the following. Should we add this life-sized pillow to be as a part of the Russian Dude merch? Let me know in the comments if you want to see them or not. And by the way, speaking about the merch, you can still buy this iconic yellow The Russian Dude hoodie only right now with 15% discount, so please hurry up to therussiandude.com because these hoodies are limited. The link will be also down below. Okay, now time to get serious and talk about some pretty good news, because the Russian Air Force has suffered humongous defeat. And then I'm gonna quickly give you an update from the east and the south of Ukraine, and finally, Shoigu's lie. And so yes, you have probably heard about the Russian long-range reconnaissance plane Il-76A-50 being intercepted, looks like by Ukrainian air defense. And so yes, I'm gonna quickly summarize you the event for you, but I'm gonna also tell you some very many new things that you probably have missed, so stay tuned. And so yes, long story short, on February 23rd, which is a symbolic day for Russia because this is the one day before the invasion into Ukraine, but most importantly it is a Defender of the Motherland holiday. Ukrainian air defense was able to intercept a Russian extremely expensive plane. At first Russians were obviously not acknowledging this fact, but later it was confirmed. And one of the interesting things about this plane is that obviously Russia does not have too many of them. One of the reasons for this is because they cost at least $500 million, and they're able to do reconnaissance for up to 600 kilometers in its radius. This is a truly wonderful machine, which Russians still were able to somehow lose. And I mean, once again, yes, like mentioned previously, at first Russians did not want to acknowledge that this happened. They only said that an unidentified aerial object crashed. But whenever the locals started to film the videos with the remains of this plane, I mean, at this point the information was pretty much undeniable. And you know what? The very first official version, and I'm not even gonna be joking right now, this is the first official version from the Russian authorities, is that something made a very loud noise. We don't know, we're not sure what is this, and the reason for this big fire you're all seeing, it is because the reed is on fire. Like these plants that grow in the swamps, like the dry grass, like this was the official explanation of the Russian authorities. But later on, as even more information started to emerge online, Russians had to confirm that yes, it happened, and in fact they even mentioned that it was two planes. So this time it was not Ukrainians who said it were two planes, it was Russians first who acknowledged that two aerial targets were intercepted. And later on, another video from the same area appeared, which pretty much also undeniably confirmed that the second plane was intercepted as well. And by the way, every single photo and video that I was able to find online of this incident, I uploaded to my Patreon, full and uncensored versions, so please go ahead and watch it yourself, so you can make your own justified decision. And well, eventually the Ukrainian Air Force also confirmed that yes, it was them behind this attack, and they showed us the statistics with A-50 being intercepted. And what makes it truly absolutely unbelievable incident event is that the closest distance to the nearest front line is at least 220 kilometers, which I'm not mistaken is somewhere approximately to 160 miles, 150 miles or so. And so at first, the Russian military correspondents and bloggers, they were saying that there is no way this was a Patriot air defense that Ukrainians have. It must have been something way more serious. And pretty much, yes. Then, according to some Ukrainian media which were relying on their sources from the military and specifically from the air defense, they confirmed that a missile S-200 was used during this interception. And this one is a long-range anti-aircraft metallic cylinder with the range up to 300 kilometers. And then it can reach speeds of more than 4,300 kilometers per hour, making it an absolutely deadly weapon for the Russian aircrafts. But it is also worth mentioning that some people think that Ukrainians were not capable of this attack. In their understanding, this might have been a Russian air defense which accidentally intercepted this plane. And you know what, guys, I honestly, personally believe that with 90% probability this was a Ukrainian attack, but once again, I also want to hear what do you think. Just let me know down below in the comments. And speaking about percentages, 46.7% of you guys are still not a part of the Russian dude army, which is completely unacceptable. And yeah, I know that you, Beckham, Ben, Benjamin, Bennett, Benson, Bentley, Benton, Billy and Bishop, you might think that this does not concern you, but in fact it does. I'm speaking right now directly to you. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, it helps a lot, and you will receive these hopefully interesting updates about the Russian-Ukrainian war in the future. But okay, now as promised, let me give you a brief update from the east of Ukraine, where Azov keeps obliterating Russian infantry. And then we're gonna talk about the very big lie of Sergei Shoigu. And so yes, first of all, right here is the video from Kupiansk, where Ukrainians using Swedish Stridsvagn 122 is destroying the Russian infantry. Next we have reports from the front line which claims that Ukrainians were able to destroy a Russian tank next to Terny and then located right here. And then as we go to a little bit more to the south to Yempilivka, Ukrainians were also able to stop the advancement of the Russian military convoy. They were able to stop it completely, every single military vehicle was destroyed, as you can see from this picture. And next is the video from the forests to the south of Crimea, where Azov Brigade elite Ukrainian soldiers are once again destroying the positions of Russians, mostly during their night raids, as you can see from this video. Next we go to Avdiivka, and right here is the video of a Ukrainian land drone safely bringing a lot of supplies to Ukrainian soldiers next to the current front lines. And besides this, also from Avdiivka area, right here is the video of an American Abrams tank, which is used by Ukrainians to also crush the defenses of Russians. And ultimately speaking about Avdiivka, right here is the archive footage from Ukrainians fighting against Russians inside the city. This is a more than 5 minutes video full of intense combat activities, close combat action, like plot twists even I would say, but in the end Ukrainians were victorious. I highly recommend every single one of you to see the full version of this video, which is also on my Patreon. And by the way, recently I decided to make every single video I make for my Patreons to be completely ad-free, also in addition to be fully uncensored and being released in the early access. The link to my Patreon is down below, and this is the best way to support the channel, so thank you guys so much. And first of all, unfortunately, not for the first time, not for the last time, Russians attacked civilian areas in Kharkov, as you can see from this picture. Then a lot of residential areas and residential buildings were partially destroyed in the Dnipro, and then another pretty big attack of Russians happened in Odessa, also against the civilian neighborhoods. And then the ex-president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, even had the audacity to say, to address the people living in Odessa that, you know, guys, you live in Odessa, this is a historically Russian city. We cannot wait for you to finally join us. I mean, just think about it. You destroy their homes, you eliminate their relatives and friends, you just completely take away everything from them, and then you say, why don't you want to be with us? We're waiting for you, please become us. So no wonder not too many people like Medvedev, to say the least. But luckily, thanks to Ukrainian air defense, they were able to intercept 23 out of 31 Russian Shahed drones, reducing the impact of this most recent Russian attack. And finally, it is time to talk about the massive lie of the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu. Long story short, couple of days ago, whenever he was directly face-to-face meeting with Putin, he said that Russians were able to push every single Ukrainian out of Krinky, destroy the bridgehead, and pretty much seize the full control over the left side of Kherson region, which, as you might have guessed, is a complete lie. And just to show you how ridiculously bad this lie was, the very first ones who refuted this, who denied this information, was the Russians themselves. The Russians who are fighting in the south, specifically in Krinky, said that, Shoigu, you are wrong, bro. We are still fighting, Ukrainians are there, and we are ourselves in very dangerous position, because Ukrainians are the ones who are pushing, not us. And later on, it was also the denial and refutal from the Ukrainian side, from the Ukrainian armed forces fighting in the south. But I mean, this confirmation was pretty much logical. But well, Shoigu decided to keep going with his lie, and so I'm assuming he asked the infiltrator of Russians in Kherson region, Vladimir Saldo, to show some kind of a video where Russians are installing a flag in Krinky. And in fact, you know what, surprisingly, Vladimir Saldo was able to deliver on this promise, because right here is the video where indeed Russians are planting their flag in Krinky. And at this point people might be like, well, okay, so looks like Shoigu was right. Krinky is liberated, quote-unquote, by Russians, so what can go wrong? Well, then Ukrainians released another video, the drone footage from exactly this incident where Russians were planting their flag in Krinky, and it basically shows that just two Russian soldiers quickly ran to some position, put the flag, took some videos, posted some TikToks and Instagram reels, and then ran back as fast as they could, because they knew that this territory is Ukrainian. And so the question then arises, why would even Shoigu make this lie? Well, the most obvious explanation is that the so-called presidential elections are coming, so Putin needs to have some kind of another symbolic victory, because Avdiivka might be forgotten by the time these elections are happening. And then, at the same time, we all know that Putin himself, he likes to live in his own little world with no access to the outside information. That is why this Shoigu's lie was undeniably a lie, straight to Putin's face, one-on-one, face-to-face, big, massive, huge lie. And then imagine if Ukrainians will be able to cross Dnipro river and start liberating the rest of Kherson region, then Putin will ask Shoigu, well, didn't you tell me we liberated Krinky? Didn't you tell that Kherson is ours? I don't think Shoigu will have a valid response for this question. But what I do know is that Shoigu will be blamed for this failure, and you can only imagine what will happen. To say the least, Shoigu will have to be very careful about drinking some Russian tea and unknown liquids, and he should definitely avoid some open windows. Because after all, this is the only way Putin knows how to solve his problems. And by the way, guys, if you missed my previous video of Russians using North Korean missiles to attack Ukraine, here it appears to the left of my side, please go ahead and watch it. The statistics shows some of you missed it. Don't forget about the 15% discount for the original iconic The Russian Dude hoodie, which you can go ahead and claim right now on our website, therussiandude.com. Please also subscribe to my channel channel if you like this style of daily updates, and I'll continue to produce these videos, obviously. Thank you so much, Patreons, for your support, and see you on Tuesday.